What is up, guys? Welcome back to Will of DDT. My name is Anonymous, and today we're bringing you another interesting deck profile. Today we are going to be talking about Blue-Purple Croc. I bet you guys never thought you'd be seeing this dude again. This leader has seen pretty much zero competitive play since he was released, which is really saying something considering he was one of the first leaders released in the game. Just a quick refresher on his ability. Dawn times 1, if you activate an event, you can draw a card if you have 4 or less in hand. So you have 5 cards in hand, you use an event, you get to draw one. Essentially, this strategy is meant to facilitate stalling. You just go heavy on counter events, and that allows you to, you play your counter events and then draw deeper into your deck, allowing you to play out the game further and further while staving off your opponent's hits at life. It's a very janky strategy, and it really just never justified itself before. But as of OP4, this guy finally has enough support so as to facilitate an actually viable game plan. So I just want to make a quick case before we get into the deck list for why we're even talking about this guy today. In OP4, as you guys know, we got Purple Yellow Croc. And a lot of the support that was released for Purple Yellow Croc ends up kind of accidentally benefiting Blue Purple Croc, which is really nice. We have a Purple Searcher who searches all Baroque Works cards. We've got a 5-cost Miss All Sunday now who ramps and draws. Again, kind of goes with this leader's ability of just keeping your hand size big. And then we've got the 8-cost 9k Crocodile who offers us some life regen, which again is just further stalling while putting a big body on the board. That's something that this deck really needed. In addition to all that, we now have enough events that we can actually proc this guy's leader ability on both the opponent's turn with counter events and on our turn with main events. And of course, the main events I'm referring to is 3K Worlds and Gum Gum Red Rocks, two of the best events in the game that Blue has access to. We can use those to actually draw on our turn and then use counter events to draw on the opponent's turn. So this guy has enough of a strategy now that he's playable. Your goal is to basically stall out the opponent to the end game till you can get those big bodies on board, your 8-cost Crocodile and some other big monsters that I'll be showing you pretty soon. And yeah, from there, you can just dominate the game using your 3K Worlds, your Red Rocks to get rid of any threats, using your big bodies to clear threats as well, and just go at life from there when you see the opportunity, once your opponents run out of gas. It works surprisingly well. It does have some bad matchups, but also has some really great ones, and we'll get into that as we go further into the video. All right, guys, without further ado, let's get into the deck list. Okay, jumping straight in, guys, I think we're going to start off with the events, because again, this is going to be an event-heavy build in order to facilitate that leader ability. So first off, we are starting off with 2 copies of Gum Gum Rain. Both blue and purple have 0-cost events that buff your leader by 3k. They do require you to discard something else, but still, 0-cost events are really nice because we don't need to leave any Dawn up and we can still use our leader ability, which is really sick. So yeah, essentially these are going to help you drop down into that range of the leader ability, drop down to 5 cards in hand, and then at the same time buff your leader, stave off an attack, and draw a card, which is really nice. And of course, going in line with that, we are going to run 4 copies of the Gum Gum Jet Gatling as well. This is the purple 0-cost event. We run more of this one because its trigger is a lot nicer, and we have a ton of triggers in this deck, by the way. I think 30, maybe somewhere between 28 and 31 triggers, I think. So you will be hitting a lot of triggers off of Lice, which is really cool. The Jet Gatling's trigger is that you get to gain an active Dawn, which is cool because you can actually use it for a 1-cost counter event, and you also just ramp up closer to getting your big bodies on board. So if you hit this in life early, I'm almost always going to take that trigger because it allows you to get to your big bodies really quick. Next up, we are running 4 copies of the Desert Spada. This is a 1-cost blue event that allows you to rearrange the top 3 cards of your deck. This is really nice. It's a low cost. It's a 2k counter, sure, but it allows you to look at the top 3 cards of your deck, choose what you want next, and then immediately draw into that using the leader ability. If you've got a Dawn on your leader when you drop Desert Spada, you get to rearrange the top 3, pick what you'd like right now for this counter phase, pick what you'd like next turn, to draw into, and then rearrange them in that order, immediately draw the one that you put on top, and then, you know, if that's another counter event, you can use that. If that's just a, you know, a regular counter card, you can pitch that to counter out of the attack. Desert Spada is super, super useful in this deck. I can't stress enough how much this card wins games with the ability to stack your next draws like that, and then immediately grab those draws. This is Love Love Mellow, 3 of this. You could drop this down to 2 if you wanted. To be honest, this leader is, I find myself a lot of times not wanting to use this card because, you know, if you use it while you're at 5 cards in hand, you're only gonna draw 1 off of the leader ability. If you use this while you have 4 cards in hand, you know, if you pitch this as the 4th card, then you get to draw off of Mellow and draw off the leader, which feels really, really good. But again, honestly, kind of hard to get down to that few cards in hand sometimes, so you could drop this down to 2, but I do like it at 3. You can always just pitch it for the 0 cost events. And next up, we have 4 copies of 3000 Worlds. Just a phenomenal card. You bottom deck any 5 costs. There are a lot of dangerous 5 costs in the game. And again, you know, if you use this while you have only 5 cards in hand and a Dawn on your leader, you can bottom deck an opponent's character and you can draw a card off of leader ability, which is super, super good. And then we've got 3 copies of the Gum Gum Red Rock. This card is amazing. 6 cost, just yeet anything in the game off the board. Super, super useful, and again, it procs the leader ability, which is very cool, allowing us to draw after we get rid of one of their cards. Now we are running the units, 4 copies of the 2 cost Miss Valentine. This is a searcher who looks at the top 5 cards of the deck for a Baroque Works card. This is really cool because it grabs our Desert Spada and it grabs a lot of the other units that we want to play in this deck. Just a really good card. She also has a trigger that allows her to be played off of life. So, you know, Dawn -1, which is not something you always want to do, so you want to be wise about it. But, you know, if you can afford it, you can Dawn -1, play this card off of life, get a search. Super, super cool. Very good card. And one of the most useful things that she can search is 4 copies of Miss All Sunday. This is a key card in the deck. This is an MVP of the deck. She's a 3 cost 1k blocker, and on KO, she can grab any event from your trash. It does not have to be blue, does not have to be Baroque Works. Literally any of the events seen here, you can grab them from your trash. So if next turn you know you're gonna need an offensive event like Red Rock or 3000 Worlds, you can grab that from the trash when she dies, when she blocks, in order to get rid of a unit next turn. Or if you know that, like, hey, like right now I'm in trouble, my opponent has more attacks coming up that I'm gonna need to be able to you know, counter out of, then you can grab a Spada, you can grab Mellow, one of these 0 cost events. Sometimes it's literally just about hand advantage. You might just have a 0 cost event in hand, but you're running low on cards. You can use her to just grab any other event and just pitch it to activate one of the 0 cost ones that you already have in hand. Just being able to replenish your hand size with this card is already a huge thing in and of itself. Being able to choose an event that is tailored to the situation that you're in right now is amazing. Next up, we've got 4 copies of Mr. 13 and Miss Friday. This is a good card because it's just a Baroque Work, so it's searchable off of the Miss Valentine, and it's a 2k counter, which is good to just have a few of those. And the activate main actually does come up. You can play this character, and then you can kill itself, you can trash itself along with another Baroque Works card that's usually going to be the Searcher. So you can trash this card and Miss Valentine in order to ramp an active Dawn. That's really good. If I don't have anything better to do on my 3 Dawn or 4 Dawn turn, I'm going to just play this guy. I'm going to kill itself and the Miss Valentine in order to ramp a Dawn. It gets us closer to being able to play our 7 and 8 and 9 drops. Just being, you know, half a turn ahead, sometimes even getting to a full turn ahead, is super nice. And this card does have a trigger. If you hit this off of your first life, it's fantastic because you can just play the card for free. You don't need to waste any Dawn on it. And, you know, you can, again, use that effect to trash the Searcher and ramp a Dawn, which is really, really nice. Next up, we are running 2 copies of the Mr. 2, or Bon Clay. This is another 2k counter, searchable. That's really it. I don't think I've ever played this card, to be completely honest. But yeah, just a searchable 2k counter. It's kind of nice to have. Next up, we are running 3 copies of Mr. 3. Now, he is a former Baroque Works, but if you read the text of Miss Valentine carefully, she searches for anything that includes the word Baroque Works. So Mr. 3 is searchable off of her, and he's just a blocker. If I have nothing better to do on my 4-Dawn turn, very easy to drop this guy. He also synergizes pretty well with the deck because he is a blocker, but he's 5k, so you can attack at life with this guy, just get some pokes, get some cards out of the opponent's hand, and then end of turn, you can trash a card from hand to set this character as active. Now, you shouldn't necessarily be eager to trash cards from hand, but again, leader ability only works if you're at a certain hand size, and if you just have too many dead cards clogging your hand, you can just attack with this guy and then trash something that you have no intention of playing to set him back as active so that he's still a blocker and your leader ability is closer to being live. It definitely synergizes pretty well with this leader. Next up, we have 4 copies of the 5-cost Miss All Sunday, probably the best purple card that we got in this set. She is a on play, add 1 Dawn from your deck and rest it. And then if you have 6 or more Dawn cards on your field, draw 1 card. So if you play this card on curve, you're basically going to get an extra Dawn, you're going to draw, and you're going to draw 1, which is super good. Again, just keeping that hand size big and being able to ramp and get closer to your big bodies quicker is amazing. I mean, the best thing you can see early game is a search turn 1, and then you can get the Mr. 13 and Miss Friday off of life, or just play it manually, and then you can use that, trash the Miss Valentine, gain a Dawn, and then the next turn you can play Miss Sunday, ramp another Dawn, and then you're ahead a full turn, which is crazy because if you can hit your big bodies that fast, like a full turn earlier than you're supposed to, you're really going to be in a good position to dominate the rest of the game. Again, especially if you get Mr. 13 Miss Friday off trigger, then you can actually, if you're going second, you can play this turn 1. This comes off of life, and turn 2, you can use this to trash the Miss Valentine, gain a Dawn, and then on your second turn itself, you have 5, so you can play Miss All Sunday and ramp again. So basically for free, you're a full turn ahead, which feels amazing. Next up, we have got the 7-cost Banished Crocodile. I know this is a kind of hot take. A lot of people don't think this is a good card, but in this deck, this card to me is amazing. He's a 7-cost, 7k, inherently has Banish, which is just such a great keyword. You can, dodge so many triggers with that, prevent your opponent from getting hand advantage. It just really makes that end turn math a lot easier when you're going for game. And Dawn times 1, you can give all blue events in your hand -1 cost. This is so good because you can attach a 1 Dawn to this guy. You can swing at something, right, for a higher number because he's got a Dawn attached. And then you can use your 3,000 Worlds for only 3 cost. You can use your Red Rock for only 5 cost. Then when you pass turn to the opponent, your Desert Spada is free. Your Love Mellow only costs 1. It's so good. Like, it sounds kind of dumb that you're putting 1 Dawn on this guy and then you're reducing the cost of an event by 1. When you think about it that way, about only using 1 event, yeah, the card ends up kind of useless. But when you can use multiple events off of this guy for just 1 Dawn, and you're getting, again, your Desert Spadas for free, it's just phenomenal. I mean, it's so good. Really is, facilitates a lot of crazy plays in this deck. Again, he is kind of a tough play because he doesn't do anything for you the very turn he's played, generally speaking. You have to drop him, kind of wait a turn before he becomes useful. But if you're confident you can drop this guy without him being removed and you spot a good opportunity to do that, definitely play this guy. He will completely change the remainder of the game. He makes your economy so much more efficient. Amazing card. And again, when you're going for game, that Banish keyword really comes up. Prevents your opponent from gaining more counters or triggers from life. Really allows you to more safely end the game. Next up, we've got 3 copies of the 8-cost Crocodile. Again, on play, -2. If your leader is a Baroque Works, which it of course is, you get to add a life from the top of your deck. You just take a card from the top of your deck, add it to your life. This is really good. Facilitates stall, allows us to safely play him without the danger of being killed next turn because he's regenerating a life for us. And he also has another pretty useful effect on your opponent's attack. Dawn -1, you can draw one, trash one from your hand. So it basically allows you to unbrick your hand at the cost of minusing another Dawn. I wouldn't recommend using that effect the turn immediately after you play him, because then you're going to be behind, right? Because you -2 for his on play. If you minus another one for his opponent's attack, then you're going to be behind 3 Dawn, meaning your next turn you'll only be at 9 instead of 10. So I recommend not using his second ability the turn immediately after he's played. I would recommend waiting a full turn to use it, just so that you don't set yourself behind. But yeah, really, really good card. Life regen, 9k unit, really hard to kill. Just a phenomenal card, and this is one of the only 2 leaders in the game who can take advantage of it, so you might as well play it. And last but not least, we've got old reliable. If you're running a blue deck that runs big boss monsters, Mihawk is a staple. 9 cost, 9k, bottom deck a 7 or less. This is just such a phenomenal card. Yeah, I mean, again, if you can ramp up to this really quickly, and then drop this at an opportune time, bottom deck one of their really key cards, this is going to be such a good card for you. Very hard to remove. There's not that much in the game that can get rid of a 9 cost. 8 costs and 7 costs are definitely a little more vulnerable, but a 9 cost unit is going to be very sticky. So Mihawk's just a great card, great effect, allows you to remove their board while building your own. And yeah, he's just going to stay there for a long time. So that is the deck, guys. I will talk a little bit about matchups and stuff, and then we'll wrap up the video. Just some closing notes now before we wrap up the video. I think this deck has, again, some really favorable matchups and some pretty bad ones. Yellow, in my opinion, particularly Big Mom and Katakuri, who have access to the 10 cost Mom, it's a pretty hard matchup. The thing is, yes, you know, Yellow is kind of a deck that generally doesn't go too wide. They kind of play like one thing per turn, and which is good for us. We like that because we have access to 3k worlds, we have access to Red Rock to punish that kind of play style of only playing 1 unit per turn. But at the end of the day, they have 8 cost Katakuri, which can throw 2 of our biggest monsters straight into life. Kind of, you know, kind of screws over our game plan of relying on these bigger monsters. Mihawk is safe from most of Yellow's removal, but yeah, I mean, again, by that point, you're already kind of behind if they get rid of one of these guys. The 8 cost Katakuri and the 10 cost Mom just do make that matchup kind of difficult, but if you high roll it and you ramp early and you're able to get to your Mihawk much quicker than you're supposed to, then you can definitely win that matchup. A Jet Gatling out of life, a, you know, Miss All Sunday, a Mr. 13 and Miss Friday off life, that is definitely going to help you win that matchup. A very good matchup for me has been Rebecca. I absolutely stomp Rebecca. Their biggest unit is within Mihawk range. The 3k worlds and the Red Rock is going to remove anything we find problematic. Rebecca is just a super easy matchup for me. In my experience, I'm able to outgrind them very easily. You know, decks that go wide are going to be inherently harder to deal with. Decks that just develop 1 unit per turn, you're going to be able to do well against those, in my opinion, because you can, again, drop this guy, you're able to counter so efficiently, and again, just keep using your leader ability to dig deeper through your deck. There was one time where I remember I was at 1 life and I was able to survive with no blockers on board. I was able to survive 3 9k swings and 2 11k swings. I was able to survive that with, like, I think just 5 cards in hand. Just constantly using the, you know, the free spadas, the mellows to draw, the leader ability to draw, the 0 cost events to just get free counter pitch things that you don't need. I was able to counter out of 3 9ks and an 11k. And 1 11k I just, you know, took to my life. But yeah, I mean, it's, this leader's ability to stall is just unrivaled. And again, the spada to be able to choose what you want this turn to counter further and what you want next turn to use offensively against your opponent is just, I mean, this is one of the MVP cards of the deck. The Miss All Sunday is super clutch as well. This deck The synergy of this deck, again, it's a jank playstyle. Just stalling till late game is kind of a weird, wonky playstyle, but it surprisingly works. I've been having a ton of fun with this deck. I really do enjoy it, and I do think Blue-Purple Croc jumped up a few tiers as of OP4. Definitely still not top tier yet, but against a lot of the other mid-tier decks, you know, if I see someone playing off meta as well, I'm usually able to beat them out with this guy. This guy is super good with this strategy. All right, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let us know what you think about this deck profile. Leave a comment, leave a like, subscribe if you want to see more deck profiles like this. And yeah, just keep letting us know what you want to see in our future videos. Really appreciate you tuning in. We will see you in the next one. Peace.